Victor Hale wasn't in the delivery room when his daughter took her first breath. He was in a hotel room 6 blocks away, fumbling with his shirt buttons while his phone buzzed relentlessly on a nightstand he didn't recognize. 15 missed calls, 23 unread messages. And somewhere in a sterile corridor filled with anxious fathers and tired nurses, his wife lay alone, holding a child he hadn't met yet, Giashum. This isn't a story about redemption. It's about the single moment that defines everything after, the betrayal so perfectly timed it became impossible to forgive. Stay with me until the end. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Hit that like button. You'll want to hear what happens next. Victor Hale had always believed he was the kind of man who could handle pressure. At 34, he'd built a career most people spent lifetimes chasing. Senior consultant at Mercer and Klein, the kind of firm that didn't hire, they selected. Corner office on the 19th floor with windows that overlook the entire downtown skyline. Tailored suits that cost more than some people's monthly rent. A handshake that closed deals worth millions, and a smile that opened doors most people didn't even know existed. People respected him. Feared him a little, maybe. Clients requested him by name. Junior associates studied his presentation style like it was a masterclass. His boss, Gerald Mercer himself, had pulled him aside at last year's Christmas party and told him he was exactly the kind of shark we need in these waters. Victor had liked that, being a shark, being necessary. And he'd learned to live with that weight, that constant expectation that Victor Hale had everything under control. His career, his reputation, his marriage to Lillian Hayes, the woman everyone said was too good for him, and maybe they were right, but she'd said yes anyway. But control, he was learning, was just another word for illusion. A house of cards built so carefully that you forget it's still just cards. One wrong breath and the whole thing comes down. He just didn't know the breath was coming today. It was a Thursday in late September when Lillian's water broke. Not the romantic movie version labor where everything happens in slow motion with violins playing in the background and the father catches the baby with a football metaphor ready. Nothing like that. Real life was messier, scarier, less orchestrated. She'd been standing in their kitchen, mid-sentence, telling him something about the nursery paint colors, some debate between whisper gray and morning dove that Victor honestly couldn't tell apart, when she stopped, just froze mid-gesture, her hand holding a paint swatch from the hardware store. "Vic," she said quietly. Too quietly. He'd been checking his phone, scrolling through emails he didn't need to read right then. But something in her voice made him look up immediately, made his stomach drop before his brain even processed why. He was already moving toward her when he saw it, the puddle forming at her feet on their pristine white tile floor, the kitchen floor they'd had installed last spring. The floor Lillian had been so excited about. Her face had gone pale, her breathing shallow, one hand still gripping the paint swatch, the other moving to her belly. That massive, beautiful belly that had been growing their daughter for the past 9 months. Okay, it's okay, he heard himself saying, though he wasn't sure if he was talking to her or himself. His mind was already racing through protocols he'd researched, videos he'd watched, conversations with other fathers who'd made it sound so simple, so manageable. Stay calm, time the contractions, grab the hospital bag, get her to St. Catherine's. You've practiced this. Lillian's face was pale, but she managed a small smile. That smile that had first made him fall in love with her 7 years ago at a fundraiser where he'd been bored out of his mind until she'd walked up and said something sharp and funny about the terrible wine. "We practiced this," she said now, her voice steadier than his felt. They had. Twice. Complete dry runs to St. Catherine's Medical Center, timing the route, memorizing the intake process, figuring out which entrance had the shortest walk to labor and delivery. Victor Hale didn't leave things to chance. Except he did. He just didn't know it yet. "Let me get your bag," he said, "and the car seat, and did we put the insurance cards in the folder?" "Victor." She grabbed his wrist, tight, her eyes locked on his. "Breathe," he breathed. "I'm going to change," she said. "Then we'll go. Slowly. We have time." "Are you sure? Because I read that sometimes—" "Victor, we have time." She always knew how to calm him down, how to cut through his spiraling with just a look, just a word. It was one of the things he loved most about her, one of the things he'd taken for granted. The drive to the hospital took 14 minutes. Victor kept his hands steady on the wheel, his voice even as he talked her through breathing exercises he'd memorized from some prenatal class they'd taken months ago. The instructor had been this enthusiastic woman named Brenda, who kept saying things like breathe into the discomfort and partner with the pain. At the time, Victor had thought it was nonsense, new age garbage. But now, with Lillian gripping the door handle so hard her knuckles were white, he found himself repeating Brenda's words like they were scripture. In through your nose, count to 4. Out through your mouth, count to 6. Lillian followed along, her breathing shallow and quick. She was wearing the maternity dress she'd bought specifically for the hospital trip. Soft blue, comfortable, easy to move in. Her overnight bag was in the back seat. The infant car seat was installed and checked twice. Everything according to plan. You're doing great, he told her, and he meant it. She was always stronger than she looked, stronger than him in ways he'd never admit out loud. She didn't answer. Her eyes were closed, her jaw tight. Another contraction rolling through her body like a wave. He reached over, squeezed her knee. Almost there. 2 more minutes. St. Catherine's emergency entrance was exactly where they'd rehearsed. Victor pulled up to the curb, threw the hazards on, and was around to her side before she could reach for the door. A nurse with kind eyes and efficient hands appeared almost immediately with a wheelchair, already asking questions in that rapid-fire way medical professionals do. How far apart are the contractions? About 4 minutes, Victor said. How long have you been timing them? Since they started getting regular. About 40 minutes ago. First baby? Yes. You're doing just fine, sweetheart, the nurse said to Lillian, not him. Victor noticed that. The way the nurse's entire focus shifted to his wife, like he'd become invisible. Let's get you checked in and see where we're at. What's your name? Lillian. Lillian Hale. Beautiful name. I'm Sharon. I'm going to take good care of you. The next 2 hours blurred together in a way that felt both endless and too fast. Paperwork. ID verification. Wristbands. One for Lillian, one for the baby that didn't exist yet outside her body. Insurance cards that Victor pulled from the folder they'd prepared, feeling oddly proud that he'd remembered to bring it. A labor and delivery room on the 3rd floor that smelled like antiseptic trying to hide under lavender. Someone's failed attempt at making the space feel less clinical. The walls were painted a soft peach color. There was a window with blinds half drawn, letting in the late afternoon light. Monitors everywhere, beeping quietly like a mechanical heartbeat. Lillian changed into a hospital gown that made her look small and vulnerable in a way that made Victor's chest tighten. She'd always been petite, 5'3", barely 100 pounds before the pregnancy. But now, in this oversized gown, she looked like a child playing dress-up. The nurse, a different one now, younger, with bright red hair, helped her into the bed, started attaching monitors, checking vitals. How's your pain level, honey? 1 to 10? 6, Lillian said. Maybe 7. You want the epidural now or you want to wait? Now please. No hesitation. They'd discussed this already weeks ago. Lillian had no interest in being a hero, she'd said. No desire to prove anything by suffering through natural childbirth. If there was a way to make it hurt less, she was taking it. Victor had loved her even more for that practicality. The anesthesiologist arrived 20 minutes later. A tall man with graying hair and steady hands who explained the procedure in a calm, thorough way that Victor appreciated. He made Victor leave the room during the epidural placement. Hospital policy. Something about partners getting squeamish and passing out. Victor stood in the hallway, listening to the muffled sounds of other families in other rooms. A baby crying. Someone laughing. A television playing too loud. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. A text from his mother. Any news yet? So excited to meet my granddaughter. Call when you can. He typed back quickly. In labor now. We'll update soon. Another buzz. This time from Gerald. Heard today's the big day. Good luck, Dad. Take whatever time you need. Victor smiled at that. Gerald was a hard ass, but he had his moments. Thanks. Appreciate it. The door opened. The anesthesiologist stepped out, gave him a nod. All set. She should start feeling relief in about 10 minutes. Thank you. Victor went back in. Lillian was lying on her side, breathing slowly. The red-haired nurse was adjusting something on one of the monitors. Hey, he said softly. Lillian opened her eyes. Hey, how do you feel? Ask me in 10 minutes. He sat down in the chair next to her bed, the same chair he imagined that thousands of other fathers had sat in, waiting, hoping, praying probably, though Victor had never been much for that. The contractions were getting closer, harder. The monitors showed them as sharp peaks on a screen that looked like a lie detector test. But with the epidural kicking in, Lillian's face started to relax. The tension in her shoulders eased. "Better?" he asked. "So much better." She reached for his hand. He took it, felt the warmth of her palm against his. Her wedding ring pressed into his finger, the simple gold band they'd picked out together. Nothing flashy, just solid and real. "I'm here," he said. "I'm right here." And for a while, he was. It was around hour 3 when his phone started buzzing more insistently. He'd silenced it, shoved it in his jacket pocket, tried to ignore it. The jacket was hanging on a hook by the door, but he could still feel it. That phantom vibration, the knowledge that someone was trying to reach him. Lillian's eyes were closed. The epidural had finally given her some relief, and she drifted into an exhausted half-sleep between contractions. The monitors beeped steadily. The red-haired nurse had stepped out to check on another patient. For just a moment, the room was quiet. Victor told himself to leave it alone, but his leg was already moving, carrying him to the jacket. His hand was already reaching into the pocket. 3 missed calls from a number he recognized immediately. A number he'd saved under N. Ashford, corporate, to make it look professional. Plausible. Like something his wife might glance at and not question. Not now, he thought. Not today. Not fucking today. But his thumb was already opening the messages. "Where are you?" "Victor, I need to talk to you. Please, it's important. I know today is complicated, but this can't wait." Her name was Nicole Ashford, 31 years old. Corporate strategy director at Hartman and Associates, one of Mercer and Klein's main competitors. Dark hair, sharp eyes, the kind of confident intelligence that had caught his attention at a conference in Chicago 8 months ago. They'd met at a hotel bar. Started with drinks that turned into dinner, dinner that turned into conversation that felt too easy, too natural, like they'd known each other for years instead of hours. And then a hotel room neither of them should have entered. It had been stupid, reckless. The kind of mistake Victor told himself he'd never make. He wasn't that guy. He didn't cheat on his pregnant wife. He had morals, standards, a reputation to maintain. Except he had cheated. And then he'd done it again. And again. It had started as a one-time thing, a release valve for pressure he didn't know how to handle any other way. Lillian was pregnant, exhausted, her entire world consumed by the baby growing inside her. They hadn't been intimate in months. She fell asleep at 8:30 most nights. She talked about nothing but nursery themes and baby registries and breast pumps. He'd felt invisible in his own home, like he'd become an accessory to his wife's pregnancy instead of a participant in it. Nicole made him feel seen, made him feel like Victor Hale again instead of just the father or Lillian's husband. She listened when he talked about work, laughed at his jokes, looked at him like he was interesting, desirable, worth her time. It was a pathetic justification, and somewhere deep down, he knew it. But knowing something is wrong doesn't always stop you from doing it, doesn't stop you from telling yourself stories that make it okay, just for now, just this once, just until things get better at home. "Mr. Hale?" Victor looked up sharply, his heart hammering. The nurse was back, checking monitors, adjusting IV lines. She hadn't seen the phone, hadn't seen him reading messages from another woman while his wife labored 6 feet away. "Everything okay?" the nurse asked. "Yeah, fine." He shoved the phone back in his pocket, felt it burn there like evidence. "Just checking work stuff." The nurse gave him a look. The kind of look that said, "Really? Right now?" But she didn't say anything. Just made some notes on her chart and left again. Victor moved back to Lillian's bedside. She was still sleeping, her breathing slow and steady. Her face looked peaceful for the first time in hours. He sat down, took her hand again. It felt cold. Guilt crawled up his throat like acid. Delete the messages, he told himself. Block her number. End this right now. But he didn't. By hour 5, Lillian's labor had stalled. The doctor came in, a woman in her 50s named Dr. Patel, with short gray hair and the kind of calm authority that probably came from delivering thousands of babies. She checked Lillian's progress, reviewed the monitors, made thoughtful humming sounds that told Victor exactly nothing. "How are we doing, Lillian?" Dr. Patel asked. "Tired," Lillian admitted. She'd woken up about 20 minutes ago, more alert now, but clearly exhausted. "I bet. You're at about 7 centimeters. We need to get to 10 before you can push." "How much longer?" Dr. Patel gave her an honest smile. "Could be another few hours, maybe longer. Every baby's different. These things don't run on schedules." "Hours?" Lillian's voice cracked slightly. "I know it's frustrating, but you're doing great. The baby's doing great. Sometimes we just have to be patient." Victor nodded like he understood, like he was absorbing this information and processing it rationally. But all he could think about was Nicole's messages, the ones still sitting on his phone, the ones that said important and can't wait. "You should eat something," the nurse suggested to Victor. "There's a cafeteria on the second floor. Could be a long night. You'll need your energy." He didn't want to leave, or maybe he did. He couldn't tell anymore. The room felt too small, the air too thick, and his phone was still buzzing, had been buzzing on and off for the past hour. "I'll be quick," he told Lillian. She didn't open her eyes. "Okay. You want anything? Water? Ice chips?" "No, I'm fine." He kissed her forehead. It was damp, slightly feverish. The hospital gown had slipped off one shoulder. He adjusted it carefully, gently, trying to pour all his guilt into that one small act of care. "I love you," he said. "Love you too," she murmured, already drifting again. He left. The hospital cafeteria was nearly empty at 6:47 p.m. Just a janitor mopping floors in the corner and a couple of residents hunched over coffee that probably tasted like cardboard, their scrubs wrinkled and their eyes half closed. Victor got a sandwich he didn't want from a vending machine, turkey and cheese on white bread that looked like it had been made 3 days ago, and sat at a table near the windows overlooking the parking lot. His phone was in his hand before he could stop himself. 6 new messages, all from Nicole. "Victor, this can't wait. I know today is complicated, but I really need to see you. I'm at the Meridian, room 412. Please, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. I'm not trying to make this harder. I just need 30 minutes, that's all. Please, Victor." The Meridian Hotel, 6 blocks from St. Catherine's, 6 blocks from where his wife was in labor with their first child. He should have deleted the messages right then, should have blocked her number, gone back upstairs to Lillian, stayed by her side like he'd promised, but his fingers were already typing. "Can't right now. Lillian's in labor." The response came immediately, like she'd been waiting, phone in hand, for him to answer. "I know. I'm sorry. But this is about us, about what happens next. Just 30 minutes. Please, I'm begging you. Us." Like there was an us. Like this thing between them was something real and not just a series of bad decisions stacked on top of each other like a tower about to collapse. He stared at the message for a long time. The sandwich sat untouched on the table in front of him. Outside, the sky was turning that particular shade of purple that comes right before dark. Streetlights were starting to flicker on in the parking lot. He thought about Lillian upstairs, about the baby that would be born tonight or tomorrow morning, or whenever labor decided to finish what it had started. About the nursery waiting at home with its carefully chosen paint colors and the crib they'd assembled together on a Sunday afternoon, laughing when they couldn't figure out which screw went where. He thought about the promises he'd made at their wedding 7 years ago, when Lillian told him she was pregnant, every day since. And then he thought about Nicole, about the way she looked at him, about the secret part of his life that made him feel alive in a way he couldn't explain. "Just 30 minutes, he whispered to no one. He stood up, left the sandwich on the table, walked toward the elevator, and made the choice that would define everything that came after. Victor told himself he was just going to talk to her, set boundaries, end things properly, face to face, the way an adult should. That's what he told himself in the elevator down to the lobby. What he told himself walking out the hospital's main entrance into the cool September evening. What he told himself during the 6-block walk to the Meridian, past boutique shops and coffee places, and people living their normal lives, unaware that his was falling apart. The Meridian Hotel was all polished marble and low lighting, the kind of place that catered to business travelers with expense accounts and people who didn't want to be recognized. Victor had been here before, 3 times. Always with Nicole, always in rooms that looked exactly like each other, Anonymous, comfortable, forgettable. He took the elevator to the fourth floor, his heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with exertion. The hallway was empty. Quiet. Thick carpet that absorbed the sound of his footsteps. Room 412. He stood outside the door for what felt like an hour but was probably only seconds. His hand was raised to knock. His phone was in his pocket, buzzing again. He didn't check it. He knocked. Nicole opened the door almost immediately, like she'd been standing on the other side, waiting. She was dressed simply. Dark jeans, a black sweater, but she looked the way she always did, effortlessly put together, confident in a way that felt magnetic. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "I can't stay long," Victor said, but he was already stepping inside. The room was nicer than it needed to be. King bed with white linens, city view through floor-to-ceiling windows, a desk with a lamp, a bathroom visible through an open door, the kind of space designed for comfort and privacy. Nicole closed the door behind him, and suddenly the air felt thinner. The room felt smaller. "I know this is terrible timing," she started, her voice shaking slightly. "I know you're dealing with—" "Then why?" Victor interrupted. "Why today, Nicole? Why right now?" She looked at him, and for the first time since he'd known her, she looked uncertain, vulnerable in a way he'd never seen. "Because I'm pregnant." The words hit him like a physical blow. For a moment he couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what she'd just said. The room tilted. The floor felt unstable. "What?" "I'm pregnant, Victor. 8 weeks." He took a step back, his mind racing. "That's not— We were careful. We used—" "I know." Her voice was steady now, but her hands were shaking. She wrapped her arms around herself like she was cold. "But it happened, and I needed you to know. I needed to tell you before I made any decisions." Decisions. The word hung in the air between them like smoke. "Nicole, He couldn't finish. Couldn't find words that made sense. His mind was spiraling, fragmenting into 1,000 pieces. Lillian was 6 blocks away, in pain, about to give birth to their daughter. And here he was, standing in a hotel room, learning that his mistress, that word made him feel physically sick, was pregnant with his child. His second child. A child that couldn't exist. That couldn't be real. "I'm not asking you to leave her," Nicole said quickly, reading his face. "I know you won't. I'm not delusional. I needed you to know. I needed you here. I needed to see your face when I told you because I can't make this decision alone and I—" Her voice cracked. Actual tears now, running down her face. "I don't know what to do, Victor. I don't know what to do." And maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was the weight of everything collapsing at once. Maybe it was just cowardice, the inability to face what he'd done and what it meant. But when she stepped closer, when she put her hand on his chest and looked up at him with those eyes that had always seen through his carefully constructed walls, he didn't pull away. "I can't do this," he said, but his voice sounded hollow, weak. "I know," she whispered. "I know you can't, but I needed to see you. I needed—" And then she kissed him. Later, Victor would try to remember the exact sequence of events, how it escalated, how they went from standing near the door to sitting on the edge of the bed, how his jacket ended up on the floor, how her sweater ended up next to it. He would try to pinpoint the moment when he could have stopped, should have stopped, the moment when he made the conscious choice to keep going instead of walking out. But the truth was, there wasn't one moment. There were 100 small moments, each one a choice, each one leading to the next. Nicole's hands in his hair, his phone buzzing in his pocket, once, twice, 3 times, and him ignoring it, the sound of her breathing, the feel of the hotel bed beneath them, the city lights outside the window painting everything in orange and gold. He told himself it would just be a moment, one moment to process, to think, to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do. But moments have a way of stretching, of becoming minutes, of becoming choices you can't take back. His phone kept buzzing. He kept ignoring it. And 6 blocks away, in a hospital room with lavender air freshener and monitors that beeped like mechanical hearts, Lillian Hayes pushed their daughter into the world without him. It was the 11th missed call that finally broke through the fog. Victor pulled away from Nicole, breathless, his head spinning like he'd been drinking, though he was painfully, horribly sober. His shirt was half unbuttoned. His hair was a mess. Nicole sat on the edge of the bed, looking at him like she was trying to memorize his face. "Victor," she started, but he was already fumbling for his phone, already seeing the screen light up with notifications that made his blood run cold. 23 missed calls, 41 text messages. His hands went numb. The phone almost slipped from his grip. The most recent message was from the hospital, an automated notification sent at 8:47 p.m. "Congratulations! Baby girl delivered at 8:47 p.m. Mother and child stable. Please contact the nursing station for room information." He read it twice, 3 times. The words wouldn't process, wouldn't become real. 8:47 p.m. He checked the time on his phone, 9:13 p.m. 26 minutes ago, his daughter had been born. 26 minutes ago, while he was here, in this room, with this woman who wasn't his wife. 26 minutes. "Victor?" Nicole's voice sounded far away, like she was speaking through water. "What is it? What's wrong?" He couldn't look at her, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. He was already moving, grabbing his jacket from the floor, his phone clutched in his hand like a lifeline. "Victor, wait, I have to go. But we need to talk about what I told you, about the baby, about what we're going to... I have to go." He didn't wait for her response, didn't look back, just opened the door and ran. The 6 blocks back to St. Catherine's felt like 6 miles. Victor's lungs burned, his dress shoes slapping against pavement, his mind a white noise storm of panic and self-hatred, and the word no repeating over and over like a prayer. "No, no, 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 please, no." He burst through the hospital's main entrance, past the security guard who shouted something about visiting hours, into the elevator that moved too slowly, his finger jabbing the button for the 3rd floor like that would make it move faster. The doors opened. He ran down the corridor, past nurses who looked at him with concern, past other families in other waiting rooms, past everything until he reached labor and delivery. Room 3. The door was half open. He stopped just outside, his hand on the frame, trying to catch his breath, trying to prepare himself for what he was about to see, what he was about to face. Inside, he could see Lillian. She was propped up in the hospital bed, her hair damp and messy around her face, her skin pale but glowing in that way new mothers do. The hospital gown was askew. There were dark circles under her eyes. She looked exhausted, beautiful, broken. And in her arms, wrapped in a standard-issue hospital blanket with pink and blue stripes, was a tiny, impossibly small human being. Their daughter. A nurse was adjusting something on a monitor. Another was making notes on a chart. Neither of them looked at him. But Lillian did. Her eyes met his across the room, and in that single moment, Victor saw everything. Saw his absence reflected back at him like a mirror. Saw the missed calls. The timing that was too perfect to be coincidence. Saw her alone, in pain, bringing their child into the world while he was somewhere else. She didn't say anything, didn't have to. Her face just closed, like a door locking, like a light switching off, like something breaking so quietly you could only hear it if you were listening for it, and Victor was listening. Finally, too late. "Mr. Hale," one of the nurses said too brightly. Professional smile plastered on. "Congratulations. You have a beautiful baby girl." He forced himself to move forward, to step into the room that felt like a crime scene, to look at the child he'd missed being born. The moment he'd sacrificed for 26 minutes in a hotel room. She was perfect. Tiny fingers curled into fists smaller than walnuts, dark hair, impossibly soft-looking, eyes squeezed shut against the harsh fluorescent light. Breathing, alive, real, his daughter. "Do you want to hold her?" the nurse asked gently. His voice cracked. He cleared his throat, tried again. "Yes, please." Lillian shifted, moving the baby slightly in her arms, and for a terrible moment Victor thought she might refuse. Might tell him he didn't deserve to hold her, might scream at him, throw him out, call him exactly what he was. But she didn't. She just carefully, gently transferred their daughter into his arms. Her movements were mechanical, practiced. Like she'd rehearsed this handoff with the nurses while he was gone. The baby was warm, impossibly light, like she weighed nothing at all. She made a small sound, almost a sigh, and nestled against his chest like she belonged there. Victor looked down at her, this perfect, innocent thing, who had no idea what her father had just done, what he'd chosen in the minutes before she existed, what he'd sacrificed for 26 minutes of selfishness. And something inside him shattered. Completely. Irreparably. "Her name," Lillian said quietly from the bed. Her first real words to him. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "We said Emma, if you still want that." "Emma," he repeated. The name they'd picked out 3 months ago, lying in bed together on a lazy Sunday morning, Lillian's hand on her swollen belly, both of them imagining who this person might be. "Yeah, Emma's perfect." "Okay." The nurse smiled, still trying to maintain the veneer of celebration. "Emma Hale. Beautiful name. I'll get that on the birth certificate paperwork. Congratulations, you two. She's absolutely precious." She left. The other nurse followed after checking one more monitor, adjusting one more IV line. And suddenly it was just the three of them. Victor held his daughter. Lillian watched him from the bed, her expression unreadable. The monitors beeped. The lavender air freshener did its best to mask the smell of antiseptic and blood. "I'm sorry," Victor said finally. The words felt pathetic, insufficient, like trying to patch a sinking ship with a Band-Aid. "Lillian, I'm so sorry I wasn't here. I'm so sorry. Where were you?" Her voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes before a storm or after one, when everything's already been destroyed and there's nothing left to rage about. He couldn't lie. The words wouldn't come. But he couldn't tell the truth either. Couldn't say I was with another woman. I was with the woman who's carrying my second child. I was choosing her over you for 26 minutes while you brought our daughter into the world alone. I had to take care of something. Something. Yes. Something more important than being here when your daughter was born. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, an observation, a fact being logged and filed away. No, nothing is more important than this. I lost track of time. I didn't realize how fast it would happen. I thought I had more. You didn't check your phone. I did. 23 calls, Victor. Her voice was still quiet, still controlled. The calm before the storm that would never come, because she was too smart for storms, too self-possessed for scenes. I counted while the nurses were cleaning her up. 23 times I needed you, and you didn't answer. Emma shifted in his arms, making small movements like she was trying to find a comfortable position. He looked down at her, unable to meet Lillian's eyes. "I'm sorry," he said again. So sorry." "Yeah," Lillian said, her voice softer now, sad in a way that cut deeper than anger ever could. "Me too." The words hung there, "me too," like she was apologizing for something, like this was somehow her fault, like she'd failed by needing him. Victor wanted to say something, wanted to explain, to fix this, to rewind time and make different choices. But there were no words, no explanations that would matter, no fixes for this particular break. Busy time. The nurses came back eventually, took Emma for tests, measurements, all the standard procedures for newborns. Weigh her, measure her, check her reflexes, make sure all her fingers and toes were accounted for. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 20 inches long, perfect APGAR scores, everything exactly as it should be, except for the father who wasn't there when she arrived. They offered to set up a cot in the room for Victor to stay the night. Standard procedure for new fathers. A chance to bond, to help, to be present for those first fragile hours. Lillian said she was tired, needed rest. Maybe it would be better if Victor went home, got some actual sleep in a real bed, came back in the morning. Her voice was pleasant, reasonable. The voice she used with strangers, with waiters, with customer service representatives on the phone. Not the voice she used with her husband. The nurse looked between them, sensing something off, but too professional to comment. "Whatever you folks prefer," she said carefully. "Visiting hours technically ended at 9, but we make exceptions for dads. It's up to you." "I'll come back in the morning," Victor heard himself say. "Let you rest." "Okay," Lillian said. She was already turning away, adjusting the blanket, closing her eyes. He left. Walked back through the corridors that had felt so urgent an hour ago. Back into the elevator. Back through the lobby, where a different security guard sat at the desk, reading something on his phone. Back to his car in the parking garage. He sat in the driver's seat for 20 minutes before he could make himself start the engine. His phone buzzed. A text from Nicole. "We need to talk about what happens next. Call me when you can." He stared at it until his vision blurred. Then he drove home. To their home. The house they'd bought 2 years ago. The nursery with the paint colors Lillian had agonized over. The crib they'd assembled together, laughing when the instructions didn't make sense. The changing table, the rocking chair, the shelves filled with books for a child who couldn't read yet. Everything ready for a family that had just broken apart. Victor sat in the nursery until dawn, watching the sky change colors through the window. Pink, then orange, then that clear blue that promises a beautiful day. Emma's empty crib waited, and Victor finally understood what he'd lost. Not in the affair itself, not even in the betrayal, though that was unforgivable enough, but in the timing, in those 26 minutes. In the choice he'd made at the exact moment he should have been making a different one. 26 minutes when he should have been there, holding Lillian's hand, witnessing the miracle of his daughter's first breath. 26 minutes he'd spent in a hotel room with a woman who wasn't his wife. 26 minutes he could never get back, never explain, never justify. The beginning of the end had a timestamp. 8:47 p.m., September 26th. The moment everything collapsed. And Victor Hale, the man who'd spent his whole life building control and maintaining the illusion that he had everything figured out, finally learned what it meant to lose it all. Some absences can't be explained away. Some moments define everything that comes after. Some betrayals don't just break trust. They rewrite who you are forever. The sunrise Victor watched through the nursery window was the kind of beautiful that felt like mockery. Clear sky, golden light, birds doing their morning routine like the world hadn't just ended. He'd been sitting in the rocking chair for 6 hours, still wearing yesterday's clothes, still smelling like hotel soap he hadn't noticed until now. His phone sat on the floor beside him, face down, vibrating occasionally with messages he couldn't bring himself to read. The house was too quiet. He'd never noticed before how much sound Lillian made just by existing, the way she hummed while making coffee, the soft pat of her feet on the hardwood floors, the running water when she washed her face at night. Without her, the place felt like a museum. Beautiful. Empty. Dead. At 7 a.m., his phone rang. Not a text, an actual call. He picked it up without looking. "Hello? Victor, it's your mother." He'd forgotten. Of course she'd call. She'd been waiting for news. "Hey, Mom. Well, don't keep me in suspense. Did she have the baby? Is it a girl? Are they okay?" Victor's throat closed. He couldn't speak. "Victor? Are you there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "And?" "It's a girl, Emma. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Everyone's healthy." The scream of joy that came through the phone was so loud he had to pull it away from his ear. His mother was crying, laughing, talking so fast he couldn't understand half of it. Something about grandbabies and blessings and when could she visit. "Mom, I'm coming today, this afternoon. I'll bring that blanket I made, and oh, I should stop and get—" "Mom, wait!" "What is it, honey? You sound strange. Just give us a day or two, okay? Lillian needs rest. The hospital's pretty strict about visitors." That was a lie. The hospital had said immediate family was fine anytime. His mother paused. "Is everything all right?" "Yeah, everything's fine, just tired." "Of course you are. New father. I remember when you were born, your father didn't sleep for 3 days straight." She laughed. "Okay, I'll give you two some space, but send me pictures, lots of pictures." "I will. I love you, sweetheart. Congratulations." "Thanks, Mom." He hung up before she could say anything else. Pictures. She wanted pictures of the baby he'd held for maybe 5 minutes total, the daughter whose birth he'd missed because he was too busy destroying his marriage. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. "Nicole, please call me. We need to figure this out." He typed back without thinking. "I can't do this right now. Victor, I'm pregnant with your child. You can't just ignore that." "I'm not ignoring it. I just need time." "How much time?" He stared at the message. How much time did it take to fix the unfixable? To undo choices that couldn't be undone? "I don't know." He turned the phone off completely, shoved it between the couch cushions like that would make it stop existing. Then he stood up, walked to the bathroom, and looked at himself in the mirror. The man looking back was a stranger. Red eyes, day-old stubble, shirt wrinkled and half untucked, hair sticking up in directions that defied physics. He looked like exactly what he was, a man who'd lost everything that mattered. Victor turned on the shower, made it as hot as he could stand, stood under the spray until his skin turned red and the bathroom filled with steam so thick he couldn't see his reflection anymore. When he got out, his phone was ringing again. He'd forgotten he turned it off. Muscle memory must have turned it back on. The hospital. St. Catherine's main number. His heart stopped. Hello? Mr. Hale? This is Sharon from Labor and Delivery. Is everything okay? Is the baby... Everyone's fine, Sharon said quickly. Mrs. Hale asked me to call. She's being discharged this morning, 10 a.m. She wanted to know if you'd be able to pick them up. Victor checked his watch. 8:30. Yes, of course. I'll be there. Wonderful. We'll have her ready in the main lobby. And Mr. Hale? Yeah? Congratulations. Your daughter is beautiful. Thank you. He hung up. 90 minutes to get himself together, to figure out what to say when he saw Lillian, to prepare for bringing his family home to a house that already felt broken. He got dressed. Khakis and a button-down shirt. The kind of outfit that said responsible father instead of man who cheated on his wife during labor. Brushed his teeth twice, put on cologne, grabbed the car seat from the nursery and carried it downstairs. The whole time, his hands were shaking. St. Catherine's lobby was busy at 10 a.m. Families coming and going, flowers being delivered. A volunteer at the information desk helping an elderly couple find their way to cardiology. Victor stood near the entrance, car seat in hand, feeling like everyone who passed could see exactly what he'd done. Like his guilt was written across his forehead in permanent marker. The elevator doors opened. Lillian appeared in a wheelchair pushed by a nurse, with Emma bundled in her arms. She was dressed in the clothes she'd worn to the hospital yesterday, yoga pants and an oversized sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. She looked exhausted and beautiful and utterly unreachable. Victor walked over. Hey. Hi. Her voice was flat, polite. The voice you'd use with an Uber driver. The nurse, a different one from last night, smiled at him. Ready to take these ladies home? Yeah. Car's right outside. They went through the discharge process in silence. Paperwork signed. Instructions given about feeding schedules and warning signs to watch for. A pamphlet about postpartum care that the nurse pressed into Lillian's hand with a knowing look that suggested she'd seen her share of struggling new mothers. Victor carried the car seat. Lillian carried Emma. They didn't touch. The walk to the parking garage felt like a funeral procession. Getting Emma into the car seat took longer than it should have. She was so small, and the strap seemed designed by someone who'd never actually held a baby. Victor's hands fumbled with the buckles, while Lillian watched with an expression that might have been amusement or contempt or nothing at all. You have to thread it through the back, she said finally. I know. You're doing it wrong. I've got it. Victor, just... She reached over, her hands brushing his as she adjusted the straps. Like this. Their eyes met for half a second. Victor saw something flicker there, some ghost of the woman who used to look at him with love. And then it was gone. Emma was secured. Lillian climbed into the back seat beside her, not the front passenger seat where she normally sat. The message was clear. Victor started the car. They drove home in silence. What? The house felt different with all three of them in it, too small and too big at the same time. Victor carried the hospital bags upstairs while Lillian took Emma into the nursery, the room he'd spent the night in, though he didn't mention that. He could hear her through the door talking to Emma in that soft voice mothers use. Nonsense words, gentle sounds, a lullaby he didn't recognize. He stood in the hallway, listening, feeling like an intruder in his own home. His phone buzzed. He'd made the mistake of turning it back on during the drive. Gerald. Heard the big news. Take all the time you need. We'll hold down the fort. Then his mother again. Dying for pictures. How's my grandbaby? Then Nicole. We need to talk today. This isn't going away. He deleted that one without responding. The nursery door opened. Lillian stood there, Emma asleep in her arms. I'm going to feed her and then try to sleep, she said. Not an invitation, a statement of fact. Do you need anything? Water? Food? I could make... No, we're fine. Lillian, I'm tired, Victor. Please. She closed the door. Not a slam, just a quiet, definitive click. Victor stood there for a long moment, then went downstairs to the kitchen. Made coffee he didn't want. Sat at the table, stared at his phone. Nicole's message sat in his deleted folder, but he could still see it in his mind. We need to talk. She was right, they did. But what was there to say? What solution existed for this particular problem? Option 1. Tell Lillian everything. Watch his marriage implode completely, lose his daughter, because there was no way Lillian would let him have custody after this. Option 2. Don't tell Lillian. Help Nicole with whatever she decided to do. Live with the secret eating him alive from the inside. Option 3. There was no option 3. His phone rang. Nicole again. This time he answered. What? His voice came out harsher than he intended. Don't what me, like I'm bothering you. We need to talk. I know. Then why won't you call me back? Why won't you? Because my wife just came home from the hospital with our daughter, Nicole. Because I'm trying to figure out how to function when everything is falling apart. Silence on the other end. Then quieter. I know this is hard. Hard? This is... He stopped, took a breath. What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me what we're doing. I want you to help me figure out what happens next. What do you want to happen? Another silence. Longer this time. I don't know, she admitted. I thought I did. I thought I'd made up my mind, but then I saw you yesterday, and her voice cracked. I don't know, Victor. I need you to help me figure this out. I can't think about this right now. When can you think about it? Because every day I wait is a day closer to when I can't make any choices at all. She was right. He knew she was right, but he couldn't. Tomorrow, he said. Meet me tomorrow. We'll talk. Figure something out. Where? Same place. 2 p.m. He hung up before she could respond. Then he sat at the kitchen table with his head in his hands and wondered when exactly his life had become a disaster movie where he was both the victim and the villain. Lillian came downstairs an hour later. Emma was still asleep upstairs in the bassinet they'd set up next to their bed. The bed they'd shared for 7 years. The bed Victor had a feeling he wouldn't be sleeping in tonight. She moved around the kitchen like he wasn't there, got water from the fridge, found crackers in the pantry, ate standing up, staring out the window at their backyard where nothing interesting was happening. Lillian, Victor said. She didn't turn around. What? Can we talk? About what? About... He gestured vaguely at the space between them. About everything. There's nothing to talk about. There's obviously something to talk about. You're acting like I don't exist. She turned then, looked at him directly for the first time since the hospital. What do you want me to say, Victor? What conversation do you think we need to have? I want you to yell at me, or ask me where I was, or something. Anything other than this. You want me to yell? I want you to react. Why? So you can apologize and I can forgive you and we can pretend everything's fine? She shook her head. I'm too tired for that performance. I'm trying to make this right. You can't make it right. You weren't there. Our daughter was born and you weren't there. That's a fact. It happened. No amount of apologizing changes it. I know. Do you? She stepped closer. Her voice was still quiet, still controlled, but there was steel underneath now. Do you understand what it was like? Being alone in that room, pushing our baby into the world while nurses kept asking where you were, while I kept telling them you'd be back any second, you probably just stepped out for coffee. You wouldn't miss this. Lillian, and then she came. And she was perfect. And the nurse put her on my chest and asked if I wanted to wait for you before they cleaned her up. And I said yes. I said yes because I thought you'd want to see her first. I thought that mattered to you. Victor's throat was so tight he could barely breathe. But you didn't come. They had to take her anyway. Had to do all the checks and measurements. And I was lying there, bleeding, hurting, watching them weigh our daughter, and the only thing I could think was, where is he? Where's my husband? I'm sorry. 23 calls, Victor. I know. Where were you? The question hung in the air between them like a grenade with the pin pulled. He could tell her, right now. Just say it. I was with another woman. I was with the woman I've been sleeping with for 8 months. The woman who's pregnant with my child. But the words wouldn't come. Cowardice wrapped itself around his tongue like chains. I had to take care of something, he said instead. The same pathetic excuse from last night. Lillian looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay? Okay. Yeah, okay. You had to take care of something more important than watching your daughter being born. That's not what I'm going back to bed. She turned toward the stairs. Emma will probably wake up in an hour. I'd appreciate it if you could change her when she does. There are diapers in the nursery, instructions on YouTube if you don't know how. Lillian, please. She stopped at the base of the stairs, didn't turn around. My mother's flying in tomorrow, she said. She'll stay in the guest room, help with the baby. I can help with the baby. I know you can, but I want my mother here. It wasn't about needing help. It was about having someone in the house who wasn't him, someone she could trust. Okay, Victor said quietly. Lillian went upstairs. A minute later, he heard the bedroom door close. Not a slam, just another quiet, definitive click. E.T. Emma woke up 45 minutes later, her cries coming through the baby monitor on the kitchen counter. Victor went upstairs, expecting to find Lillian already handling it, but the bedroom door was still closed. The nursery was warm, sunlight streaming through the window they'd deliberately positioned to get good morning light. Emma was in her bassinet, face red, fists waving, making sounds that seemed impossibly loud for someone so small. Victor picked her up carefully, supporting her head the way they'd learned in the classes they'd taken. She was warm and squirmy and absolutely furious about something. Hey there, he said softly. It's okay. Daddy's got you. The word felt foreign. Daddy. He was somebody's father now. This tiny, angry person's whole world depended on him not screwing up. He checked her diaper, soaked through. Right. The changing table was already set up with everything he needed. Diapers, wipes, that cream stuff for rashes. He'd watched Lillian do this at the hospital, had practiced on a doll in one of their classes. How hard could it be? Very hard, it turned out. Emma did not want to be changed. She kicked. She screamed. She somehow managed to pee on him mid-diaper change, a tiny fountain that soaked through his shirt. Seriously? He muttered. She screamed louder. He got the new diaper on eventually. It was crooked and probably too tight, but it was on. Victory. There, he said, picking her up again. See? Not so bad. She was still crying, differently now. Not angry. Hungry, maybe? He carried her downstairs, got a bottle from the fridge Lillian had pumped earlier, and warmed it up the way the nurses had shown them. Emma latched on immediately, her cries stopping like someone had flipped a switch. Victor sat in the living room, holding his daughter while she ate, and for just a moment, everything else faded away. Nicole? The hotel room. The 23 missed calls. All of it gone, replaced by this. Emma's tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb, her eyes half closed. The small sounds she made while drinking. I'm sorry, he whispered to her. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I'm going to let you down. I'm sorry I'm not the father you deserve. She kept drinking, unbothered by his confession. Too young to understand. Too innocent to care. When the bottle was empty, he burped her the way he'd been taught, held her against his shoulder, patted her back gently until she made a small sound and spit up on his already ruined shirt. Great, he said, but he was smiling, couldn't help it. He changed his shirt, put Emma back in her bassinet, sat beside her while she fell asleep, her breathing evening out into that steady rhythm that meant she was down for at least an hour. His phone buzzed. Nicole again. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Don't bail on me. The smile died on his face. Tomorrow, 12 hours from now. He'd have to figure out what to tell Lillian, where to say he was going, what excuse would work, and then he'd have to sit across from Nicole and make decisions about a second child. A second life he'd helped create through nothing but selfishness and stupidity. Emma shifted in her sleep, one tiny hand escaping from her swaddle. Victor tucked it back in gently. What have I done? he whispered. No one answered. Lillian's mother arrived at noon the next day, a whirlwind of perfume and efficiency and barely concealed hostility toward Victor. Her name was Margaret. She'd never quite approved of him, thought Lillian could have done better, married someone with better breeding, more money, fewer sharp edges. Now, standing in their living room with her designer luggage and her pursed lips, she looked at Victor like he was a stain on her daughter's otherwise perfect life. "Victor," she said. Not a greeting, an acknowledgement. "Margaret, good to see you." "I'm sure." She turned to Lillian, who'd come downstairs with Emma. "Oh, darling, look at you. You look exhausted." "I just had a baby, Mom." "I know, but still. You need rest. Proper rest." "Where's your room? I'll get settled, and then I can take over for a while." "Guest room. Upstairs, second door on the left." Margaret took her bags upstairs without another word to Victor. Lillian sat on the couch, Emma in her arms. Victor stood awkwardly by the kitchen, unsure if he should stay or go or disappear entirely. "Your mother hates me," he said. "She doesn't hate you. She definitely hates me. She thinks you're not good enough for me. There's a difference." "And what do you think?" Lillian looked at him, really looked at him. Her eyes were tired but clear. "I think I don't know you as well as I thought I did." The words hit harder than anger would have. "Lillian, you're going somewhere today." It wasn't a question. How did you? You keep checking your phone. You're fidgeting. You have that look you get when you're about to tell me you have to work late." She adjusted Emma in her arms. "So where are you going?" He could lie. Make up something about work, about a client, about anything. But the lies were piling up so high he could barely see over them anymore. "I have to meet someone," he said. "About something from work. It won't take long." "What time?" 2. "Will you be back for dinner?" "Yeah, definitely." She nodded. Didn't ask any more questions. Didn't push. That was somehow worse than if she'd interrogated him. Margaret came back downstairs. "Lillian, darling, you should rest. Let me take the baby." "I'm fine, Mom." "You're not fine. You just gave birth. You need sleep. I'll handle Emma." She took the baby before Lillian could protest. "Go, lie down. That's an order." Lillian looked at Victor. "Will you be here?" "I have that meeting at 2, but—" "Right, the meeting." She stood up. "Well, have fun with that." She went upstairs. Margaret looked at Victor with eyes that could cut glass. "Whatever you're doing," she said quietly, "stop." I've been married for 37 years, Victor. I know what guilt looks like. I know what secrets look like, and I know what happens to men who think they're clever enough to hide them. Margaret, I don't care what it is. I don't want to know, but my daughter just had a baby, and she needs you to be better than whatever you're being right now." She looked down at Emma, her expression softening. "This beautiful girl needs you to be better." Victor couldn't meet her eyes. "Fix it," Margaret said. "Whatever it is, before it's too late." She took Emma into the kitchen, leaving Victor alone in the living room with the weight of her words pressing down on him like gravity. The Meridian Hotel looked the same as it had 2 days ago. Same marble lobby, same discreet lighting, same feeling of illicit secrecy that made Victor's skin crawl. He was 10 minutes early, sat in the lobby bar, ordered a whiskey he didn't drink, and watched the elevator doors like they might offer some kind of salvation. Nicole appeared at exactly 2 p.m. She was dressed professionally, slacks and a blouse, like this was a business meeting instead of what it actually was. She saw him, walked over, sat down across from him without ordering anything. "Thanks for coming," she said, like I had a choice. "You always have a choice, Victor. That's the problem." "Fair point." They sat in silence for a moment. The bar was mostly empty, a businessman in the corner on a phone call, a couple by the window who looked like they were celebrating something. "I can't keep doing this," Victor said finally. "Doing what?" "This. Us. Whatever this is." "There is no us. There is just a situation we need to handle." "Don't call it a situation. It's a child." Nicole's jaw tightened. "I know what it is. So what do you want from me?" She looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, softer, more vulnerable than he'd ever heard it. "I want you to tell me what to do." Because I can't make this decision alone. It's your body, your choice. Don't give me that political answer. I'm asking you, Victor, as the father, what do you want? What did he want? To rewind time, to never have met her, to never have made the choices that led them here. But that wasn't an option. He stopped, started again. I have a daughter at home, Emma. She's 2 days old, and I already missed the most important moment of her life because I was here with you. I can't, his voice cracked. I can't do this to her, to Lillian. I can't be the father who destroyed his family. So you want me to end it? I want you to do whatever you need to do, and I'll support that, financially, whatever you need. But I can't leave my family. I can't be part of this child's life in any real way. Nicole's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back angrily. You know what's funny? I always thought if I got pregnant, it would be this joyful thing, this moment of celebration. But instead, I'm sitting in a hotel bar with a married man, begging him to care. I do care. No, you don't. You care about your reputation, your perfect life, your wife who doesn't know what you really are. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Her voice rose. The businessman in the corner looked over. She lowered it again, leaning forward. I didn't plan this. I didn't want to be the other woman. I didn't want to fall for someone who was never really available. You said you weren't asking me to leave her. I'm not. I'm just asking you to... She wiped at her eyes. I don't know what I'm asking. I don't know what I want anymore. They sat there, two people who'd made terrible choices and were now drowning in the consequences. I'll give you money, Victor said finally. Whatever you need, for whatever you decide. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? She looked at him with eyes full of something that might have been love or hate or both. I want you to choose me, she whispered. Just once. I want you to choose me over her. But they both knew he couldn't. I'm sorry, he said. Nicole stood up. Yeah, me too. She walked away without looking back, left him sitting alone at a bar with an untouched whiskey and a phone full of lies he'd have to tell when he got home. He stayed for another hour, ordered another whiskey. This time he drank it. When he finally left, his phone buzzed. Lillian, your mother called. I told her about Emma. She's coming tomorrow too. Apparently, we're having a whole family gathering. Lucky us. Victor stared at the message, his stomach turning to lead. His mother, Margaret, Lillian, Emma, all in one house, all watching him, all waiting for him to slip up. And somewhere across town, Nicole sat alone with a decision that would change everything no matter what she chose. Victor got in his car, drove home, pulled into the driveway of a house that didn't feel like his anymore, and wondered how much longer he could keep all the pieces in the air before they came crashing down. Inside, through the window, he could see his mother-in-law holding his daughter, could see the warm light of the living room, the picture of domestic happiness, a picture he'd shattered without anyone knowing yet. His phone buzzed one more time. Nicole. I made an appointment, Thursday, 10 a.m. I thought you should know. Thursday, 2 days from now. Victor sat in his car in his own driveway and finally let himself cry. Victor didn't know how long he sat there. Long enough for the sun to shift angles, casting different shadows across the dashboard. Long enough for his hands to stop shaking. Not long enough to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do next. The front door opened. Margaret stood framed in the doorway, Emma in her arms, looking out at him with an expression that could freeze water. He wiped his face quickly, got out of the car, tried to arrange his features into something that didn't scream, I just came from ending an affair with a woman who's carrying my second child. You've been sitting out here for 20 minutes, Margaret said as he approached. No greeting, just accusation. I was on a call, work stuff. Right, work stuff. She didn't believe him, didn't even pretend to. Lillian's resting. Emma just ate. She'll need to be changed in about an hour. I can do that. Can you? Margaret's eyes were sharp. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you can barely handle being present. Margaret, save it. I don't care what your excuses are. She adjusted Emma in her arms. My daughter deserves better than whatever this is. This baby deserves better. And if you can't figure out how to be what they need, then maybe you should think about whether you belong here at all. She went back inside, leaving the door open behind her. An invitation or a test? Victor wasn't sure which. He followed her in anyway. The house smelled like something Margaret had cooked. Chicken soup, probably, because that's what she made whenever anyone in the family was sick or tired or going through something. The smell reminded Victor of better times, of Sunday dinners at Lillian's parents' house before they were married, when Margaret still thought he might be good enough for her daughter. "Where's Lillian?" he asked. "I told you, resting." Margaret put Emma in the bassinet they'd moved to the living room. "You should probably do the same. You look like hell." "Thanks. I'm not complimenting you. I'm stating facts." She moved to the kitchen, started washing dishes that were already clean, keeping her hands busy. "Your mother called while you were out, at your meeting." "What did she say?" "That she's arriving tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. flight, wants to be picked up from the airport." Victor's stomach dropped. "Did you tell Lillian?" "Of course I told Lillian. Why wouldn't I?" "Because now both mothers would be here, both watching, both waiting for him to crack." "How did she take it?" Margaret turned to look at him, her hands still in the soapy water. "How do you think she took it?" "She smiled, said it would be nice, then went upstairs and closed the door." "Maybe I should go talk to her." "Maybe you should leave her alone." "She's my wife." "Then act like it." Margaret pulled her hands from the water, dried them on a towel. "Whatever you're doing, Victor, and we both know you're doing something, it needs to stop, before you lose everything." "I'm not—" "Don't lie to me. I've been where she is, young mother, exhausted, trusting my husband to be the man he promised to be." Her voice went quiet, dangerous. "You know what I found out 15 years into my marriage?" Victor didn't answer. "That trust is easy to break and impossible to fix. That some betrayals are so fundamental, they change the entire foundation of what you built together. And that children always suffer the most." "Margaret, I'm not finished." She stepped closer. "My daughter loves you. I don't know why, but she does. And that baby in there deserves a father who's actually present. So whatever you're choosing over them right now, it's not worth it. I promise you that." She left the kitchen, went upstairs, left Victor alone with Emma sleeping peacefully in her bassinet and the weight of decisions pressing down on him like concrete. His phone buzzed. Nicole again. "Thursday, 10 a.m., Mercy Women's Center on 5th. Do you want to come with me?" He stared at the message until the screen went dark. Then he deleted it. Deleted the entire conversation thread, like that would make it disappear from reality. Emma made a small sound in her sleep. Victor moved to the bassinet, looked down at his daughter. She was perfect. Tiny nose, rosebud mouth, completely innocent of the chaos her father had created. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." She slept on, unbothered by apologies she couldn't hear. Lillian came downstairs at 6. Victor was in the kitchen, attempting to make dinner from whatever Margaret hadn't already cooked. Pasta, sauce from a jar, nothing complicated. "Hey," he said when she appeared. "Hey." She looked better, still tired but more alert. She'd changed clothes, put her hair up. "Where's my mom?" "Upstairs, reading, I think." "And Emma?" "Asleep. She's been down for about an hour." Lillian nodded, moved to the fridge, got water, stood there drinking it, not looking at him. "I'm making dinner," Victor offered. "Pasta. Nothing fancy." "Okay. Your mom made soup earlier, if you'd prefer that." "Pasta's fine." The silence stretched. Victor stirred the sauce, even though it didn't need stirring. "Your mother's coming tomorrow," Lillian said finally. "Yeah, Margaret told me. 8 a.m. flight. I'll pick her up." "She's staying how long?" "A week, probably. You know how she is." Lillian made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sigh. "Two mothers in one house. This should be interesting. They'll probably gang up on me." "Probably." She set down her water glass. "Victor, can I ask you something?" His heart stopped. "Yeah, of course." "That meeting you had today, the work thing. What about it?" "Was it actually about work?" The question hung in the air. Victor's hands froze on the spoon. He could lie. Probably should lie. Say yes, it was work. Just a difficult client. Nothing to worry about. But he was so tired of lying. "No," he said quietly. "It wasn't work." Lillian absorbed this. Her face didn't change. Okay. Lillian, I don't want to know. She held up a hand. Whatever it was, whoever it was, I don't want to know right now. I can't handle it right now. But Emma is 4 days old, Victor. 4 days. My body hurts. My breasts are engorged. I'm running on maybe 6 hours of total sleep since Thursday. I cannot have whatever conversation you think we need to have. Then when? I don't know. Not now. She left the kitchen, went to check on Emma, left Victor standing over a pot of pasta sauce, feeling like the world's biggest coward. The timer went off. He drained the pasta, served it onto plates, called everyone for dinner. They ate in near silence. Margaret made pointed comments about the sauce needing more oregano. Emma woke up halfway through, and Lillian took her upstairs to nurse. Victor cleaned up the dishes, while Margaret watched him like she was cataloging his failures. Your mother's going to see right through you, she said. My mother sees what she wants to see. Don't be so sure. Mothers know things. Victor didn't answer, just kept washing dishes. That night, he slept on the couch. Not because Lillian asked him to, because he couldn't bring himself to climb into their bed, to lie next to her, to pretend everything was normal when it so clearly wasn't. He lay there in the dark, listening to the house settle around him, Emma crying upstairs at 1 a.m. Lillian's soft footsteps as she went to comfort her. Margaret's door opening and closing, the refrigerator humming, all the normal sounds of life continuing despite everything falling apart. His phone lit up on the coffee table. Nicole. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about Thursday. I'm scared. He should ignore it, should delete it, should throw his phone out the window. Instead, he typed back, Me too. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Will you be there? He stared at the question for a long time. Thursday, 10 a.m. The same time he was supposed to pick his mother up from the airport. I don't know. Please, Victor, I can't do this alone. I said, I don't know. He turned the phone off, shoved it under a couch cushion, pulled a blanket over his head and tried to sleep. He didn't. His mother arrived at 8:15 a.m., her flight having landed early. Victor stood at baggage claim, holding a sign with her name on it like she was a client instead of the woman who'd raised him. Victor! She came rushing over, pulling a sensible black suitcase, wearing the same perfume she'd worn his entire life. Look at you, you're a father! She hugged him tight. He let her. How's Lillian? How's the baby? Oh, I brought gifts, so many gifts. They're in my checked bag. Let me tell you about the woman sitting next to me on the plane. She had 3 grandchildren, and she showed me pictures, and Mom, breathe, she laughed. I'm just so excited. My first grandbaby. When do I get to meet her? As soon as we get home. The drive back was filled with his mother's constant chatter. Victor let it wash over him, responding with nods and non-committal sounds. She didn't notice. She never did. When they pulled into the driveway, Margaret was already at the front door. The 2 women looked at each other with the kind of forced politeness that only exists between in-laws who barely tolerate each other. Diane, Margaret said, how nice of you to come. Margaret, you look well. His mother's tone suggested the opposite. They went inside. Lillian was in the living room with Emma. She looked up when they entered, and Victor saw her shoulders tense. Diane, she said, standing up carefully. It's so good to see you. Oh, darling! His mother rushed over, peered at Emma. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Victor, look at her. She's perfect. She looks just like you when you were born. Same nose. Actually, I think she has Lillian's chin, Margaret interjected. Well, maybe, but definitely Victor's nose. And so it began. The rest of the morning was a careful dance of 2 women competing for grandmother supremacy while Lillian tried to keep the peace, and Victor tried to remain invisible. His mother criticized the way Emma was swaddled. Margaret defended Lillian's technique. His mother suggested a different feeding schedule. Margaret said the current one was fine. Back and forth, until Victor wanted to scream. At 9:30, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out. Nicole, leaving for the appointment now. Last chance to change your mind. His mother was telling some story about his own infancy. Margaret was pointedly not listening. Lillian was feeding Emma, her eyes closed, trying to block out the noise. Victor typed quickly. I can't. I'm sorry. You're choosing her. I'm choosing my family. I'm your family too. This baby is your family. He didn't respond, put the phone back in his pocket. Victor? His mother was looking at him. Everything okay? Yeah, fine, just work. On a Saturday? Some clients don't care about weekends. She frowned but didn't push it, went back to talking about something else. The morning dragged on. His mother wanted to hold Emma. Margaret said she'd just eaten and needed to be upright. His mother insisted she knew how to handle a baby, thank you very much. Lillian finally just handed Emma over and left the room. Victor found her in the kitchen, leaning against the counter with her eyes closed. You okay? He asked. Peachy. They mean well. I know they do. That's what makes it worse. Emma started crying in the living room. Both grandmothers started talking at once, their voices overlapping in a chorus of contradictory advice. I'm going to lose my mind, Lillian said. Want me to kick them out? There are mothers, Victor. We can't kick them out. She opened her eyes, looked at him. But I might need you to take Emma out of the house for a while. Give me some space. Take her where? I don't care. The park, a drive, just somewhere that's not here. Okay, yeah, I can do that. He went back to the living room. Both women were still arguing about whether Emma needed a warmer blanket. I'm going to take Emma out for a bit, Victor announced. Let Lillian rest. Oh, I'll come with you, his mother said immediately. Me too, Margaret added. Actually, I think I'll just take her myself. Father-daughter bonding time. The women exchanged glances but didn't argue. Victor carefully took Emma from his mother's arms, grabbed the diaper bag, and headed for the door before anyone could change their mind. Outside, the October air was crisp and cool. Emma blinked up at him, her dark eyes trying to focus on his face. Sorry about the chaos, he told her. Your grandmothers love you. They just have different ideas about everything. She made a small sound. Not crying, just existing. He put her in the car seat, double-checked all the straps, and started driving with no particular destination in mind. His phone buzzed at 10 a.m. exactly. He knew without looking what it was, who it was. He pulled into a parking lot, a strip mall with a coffee shop and a dry cleaner and an insurance office. Took out his phone. Nicole. I'm here. Waiting room is full of other scared women. Wondering if you're thinking about me. He was. Of course he was. How are you doing? Terrified. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. We both know I do. Emma made a sound from the back seat. Not crying yet, but getting there. I should go. Of course you should. Nicole, don't. Just don't. I'll text you when it's over. Okay. He sat there in the parking lot holding his phone while his daughter started to cry, and somewhere across town Nicole sat in a waiting room making the hardest decision of her life. A decision he should be there for, that he'd helped create, that he was abandoning her to face alone. What kind of man am I? He said out loud. Emma's cries got louder. Right. She needed him. She was here, real, needing her father. He got out, opened the back door, unbuckled her from the car seat, held her against his chest, swaying gently the way he'd seen Lillian do. Shh. It's okay. Daddy's here. The words felt like lies. He walked around the parking lot with her until she calmed down. Then he sat on a bench outside the coffee shop, Emma in his arms, and waited. At 11 a.m., his phone buzzed. It's done. Just those 2 words. Victor stared at them until they blurred. Are you okay? No. Do you need anything? I needed you there, but that ship has sailed. Nicole, I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. Stop texting me. Stop pretending you care. I do care. Not enough. She didn't text again. Victor sat on that bench for another hour, holding Emma, trying to process what had just happened, what he'd just let happen. The life that had ended before it began, because he was too much of a coward to face what he'd done. Emma fell asleep against his chest, trusting him completely despite him being completely unworthy of that trust. When he finally drove home, both mothers were waiting. They descended on him immediately, wanting to know where he'd been, why he'd been gone so long. Was Emma okay? Did he feed her? Did he change her? Why wasn't he answering his phone? I needed some air, he said. We both did. Lillian appeared in the doorway. Let him breathe. Everyone just back up. The mothers retreated. Lillian took Emma from Victor's arms. You look terrible, she said quietly. Thanks. What happened? Nothing. Nothing. She looked at him like she could see right through him. Like she knew. Like she'd always known. We need to talk, she said. Tonight, after everyone goes to bed. No more avoiding it. Victor's chest tightened. Okay. I mean it, Victor. No more excuses. No more delays. Tonight. I said okay. She nodded. Took Emma upstairs. Left him standing in the entryway while both mothers watched with identical expressions of concern. Is everything all right? His mother asked. Everything's fine. You don't look fine. I'm tired. New father. You know how it is. She didn't look convinced, neither did Margaret, but they both backed off, went to the kitchen to start discussing dinner plans. Victor went upstairs, stood outside the closed bedroom door, listened to Lillian humming to Emma inside. His phone buzzed one last time. Nicole, don't contact me again. Don't call. Don't text. Don't try to check on me. I want you out of my life completely. We're done. He should have felt relieved. It was over. The affair was finished. The second baby no longer existed. He could focus on fixing his marriage, on being the father Emma deserved, but all he felt was hollow. He deleted the message, deleted Nicole's contact, deleted everything. Then he sat on the floor in the hallway and waited for night to come. Dinner was tense. His mother made pot roast. Margaret criticized the vegetables. Lillian barely ate. Emma slept through the entire meal in her bassinet. At 8 p.m., Margaret announced she was going to bed early. At 8:30, Victor's mother followed suit, making comments about how exhausting travel was. Finally, it was just Victor and Lillian in the living room, Emma between them, asleep. Okay, Lillian said. Talk. What do you want me to say? The truth. Whatever it is. All of it. Victor looked at his daughter, at his wife, at the life he'd built and destroyed and was desperately trying to save. He could tell her everything, come clean. Hope she'd forgive him somehow, or he could tell her part of it. The affair but not the pregnancy. The betrayal but not its full extent. Or he could lie. Make up something believable. Protect her from the worst of it. I've been seeing someone, he said. The words came out flat. Clinical. Like he was reporting facts about someone else's life. A woman named Nicole. We met at a conference. It's been going on for 8 months. Lillian's face went perfectly still, like someone had hit pause on her. 8 months, she repeated. Yes. Our entire pregnancy. Yes. And the night Emma was born, I was with her. Yes. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma slept on, unbothered. Somewhere upstairs, a floorboard creaked. His mother or Margaret moving around, the house settling. Is it still going on? Lillian asked. Her voice was eerily calm. No, it's over, completely over. Since when? Today. Today. She laughed. No humor in it, just a sharp, bitter sound. How convenient. The same day you decide to tell me about it. Lillian, do you love her? The question hit him like a fist. No. Did you ever love her? No, it was never about love. It was about... What? What was it about, Victor? Her voice was rising now. What was worth throwing away everything we built? I don't know, okay? It was stupid and selfish and I hate myself for it, but I can't take it back and I don't know how to fix it. Emma stirred, making small sounds. Lillian picked her up automatically, held her close. You missed her birth for this woman, she said quietly. You chose her over watching your daughter being born. I know. You let me lie there alone in pain, scared while you were with her. I know. And now you want me to what? Forgive you? Pretend it didn't happen? Trust you again? I don't know what I want. I needed you to know the truth. Lillian looked at him with eyes that held something worse than anger, disappointment, grief, the death of something that couldn't be resurrected. Get out, she said. What? Get out of this house, now, tonight. Lillian, we can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. You made it 8 months ago. You made it again on the night our daughter was born. You kept making it every day since, and I'm done. Please, go. Get out. Her voice was steel, final. Victor stood there, frozen. This was it. The moment everything ended, the consequence he'd been running from. Can I say goodbye to Emma? Lillian looked down at their daughter. When she looked back up, her eyes were wet. No. The word broke something in him. Lillian, please. She's my daughter too. You should have thought about that before you decided being with your mistress was more important than being at her birth. That's not fair. None of this is fair. She was crying now, actually crying. You don't get to talk to me about fair. You don't get to ask for anything. You lost that right. Upstairs, a door opened. Margaret's voice called down. Everything okay? We're fine, Mom, Lillian called back, her voice suddenly controlled again, then quieter to Victor. Go, before I call the police and have you removed. You wouldn't try me. She meant it. He could see it in her eyes. Victor grabbed his keys from the table, his wallet, his phone, stood there for one more second, looking at his wife holding their daughter, memorizing the image because he didn't know when he'd see it again. I love you, he said. Lillian didn't answer. He walked to the door, opened it, stepped out into the cold October night. Behind him, he heard the lock click into place. He stood on his own front porch, locked out of his own house, and finally understood what he'd done, what he'd lost, what he'd thrown away for 26 minutes in a hotel room. His phone was dead. His car was in the driveway. He had nowhere to go. Inside, through the window, he could see Lillian sitting on the couch with Emma, could see her crying, could see his life continuing without him. Then she stood up, walked to the window, and closed the curtains. Victor stood there in the dark, alone, with nothing but the consequences of his choices and the knowledge that some betrayals are too fundamental to survive. Somewhere in the distance, a car alarm went off, and Victor Hale, who'd spent his entire life controlling everything, realized he'd lost control of the only things that mattered. Victor spent the first night in his car. He drove around for an hour with no destination, just moving because sitting still felt impossible. Eventually, he ended up in a grocery store parking lot 3 miles from the house that wasn't his anymore, reclined the driver's seat as far as it would go, which wasn't far, and stared at the ceiling while fluorescent lights from the store flickered through the windshield. His phone had enough battery for one call. He made it at 2 a.m. Hello? His college roommate, Derek, sounded groggy, confused. It's Victor. Vic? Man, what time is it? Is everything okay? No. Can I crash at your place? Silence. Then, yeah, of course. You know where the spare key is. Derek lived in a bachelor apartment downtown. Small. Messy. The spare key was under a fake rock by the door that fooled absolutely no one. Victor let himself in at 2:30, collapsed on the couch that smelled like beer and regret, and didn't sleep. When Derek emerged from his bedroom at 7, Victor was still lying there, staring at the ceiling. Coffee? Derek offered. Yeah. They sat at Derek's tiny kitchen table. Derek in boxers and a ratty college t-shirt, Victor still in yesterday's clothes. Neither of them spoke for a long time. You want to tell me what happened? Derek asked finally. I screwed up. Obviously. But screwed up how? Forgot an anniversary, said something stupid? Because showing up at 2 a.m. usually means I had an affair. Derek's coffee mug stopped halfway to his mouth. Oh, 8 months. Woman I met at a conference, Lillian found out, kicked me out. Jesus, Vic. She had the baby a week ago. I missed the birth because I wasn't there. Derek set down his mug carefully. You missed your kid being born? Yeah. To be with the other woman? Yeah. Man. Derek ran a hand through his hair. I don't even know what to say to that. You don't have to say anything. Does Lillian know everything? The whole thing? Victor nodded. He told her most of it. Not about Nicole's pregnancy, not about Thursday, but enough. More than enough. What are you going to do? I don't know. You want my advice? Not really. Derek gave it anyway. Give her space. Let her be angry. Don't try to fix it right away because you can't. And maybe, I don't know, man. Maybe see a therapist or something. Figure out why you did it. I know why I did it. Do you? Victor didn't answer. He spent the next 3 days on Derek's couch, went to work on Monday, sat through meetings where he couldn't focus, responded to emails with answers that made no sense. Gerald pulled him aside on Tuesday afternoon. You look like hell, Hale. Thanks. Everything okay at home? With the baby? Everything's fine. Gerald didn't look convinced. Take the rest of the week if you need it. Paternity leave. We talked about this. I'm fine. I'm not asking. So Victor went back to Derek's apartment, sat on the couch, stared at his phone. Lillian hadn't called, hadn't texted. Radio silence. His mother had, though. 12 missed calls, 6 voicemails. He listened to the first one. Victor, what on earth is going on? Lillian won't tell me anything except that you had to leave for work. But Margaret keeps giving me looks, and I know something happened. Call me back immediately. He deleted it without listening to the others. On Wednesday night, Derek came home with groceries and a look that meant he was about to say something Victor didn't want to hear. You can't just hide here forever, Derek said, unpacking vegetables neither of them would eat. I'm not hiding. You're literally hiding. You haven't showered in 2 days. You're wearing the same shirt you had on Saturday. And you keep staring at your phone like it's going to solve your problems. What do you want me to do? Go back. Talk to her. Apologize. Beg. Whatever it takes. She doesn't want to see me. How do you know? Have you tried? Victor hadn't. Because he was terrified. Because seeing Lillian meant facing what he'd done. Seeing Emma meant acknowledging what he'd lost. It was easier to sit on Derek's couch and pretend the world outside didn't exist. But Derek was right. He couldn't hide forever. I'll go tomorrow, Victor said. Promise? Yeah. Thursday morning, Victor showered, changed into clean clothes Derek had let him borrow, jeans that were too big and a shirt that was too tight, but at least they didn't smell like parking lot. He drove to the house at 9 a.m. when he knew his mother would probably be awake, but before the daily grandmother war would be in full swing. The front door was locked. Obviously. He knocked. Margaret answered. Her expression could have curdled milk. You have a lot of nerve showing up here. I need to talk to Lillian. She doesn't want to talk to you. Please, Margaret, 5 minutes. No. Is she here? Can you at least ask her? She's feeding the baby, and even if she wasn't, the answer would still be no. You've done enough damage. Margaret, go away, Victor, before I call the police. She closed the door in his face. Victor stood there, feeling like an idiot, a stranger at his own house. He walked back to his car, sat behind the wheel, and made a decision. He couldn't keep doing this. Couldn't keep avoiding the consequences, hiding at Derek's place, pretending everything would magically resolve itself. He needed a plan, an actual plan, something that proved to Lillian he was serious about fixing what he'd broken. He pulled out his phone, Googled marriage counselors near me, found one with good reviews. Dr. Sarah Chen, specializing in infidelity, trust issues, family therapy. He called, got an appointment for Friday afternoon. Then he called a lawyer. Not a divorce lawyer, a family lawyer. Someone who could explain his rights, his responsibilities, what came next if Lillian decided she was done for good. The lawyer's name was Patricia Kemp. She sounded efficient on the phone, professional. She could see him Monday morning. What's this regarding? She asked. Custody. Potentially. My wife kicked me out. We have a newborn. I see. Bring any relevant documents. Marriage certificate, birth certificate, any existing agreements. There are no agreements. Then we'll start from scratch. Monday, 10 a.m. He hung up feeling slightly less adrift. He had appointments, action items, things to do that weren't just sitting on Derek's couch waiting for his life to restart. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Hale? This is Sharon from St. Catherine's. We have Emma down for her 2-week checkup tomorrow at 11. Will you be attending with your wife? The 2-week checkup. He'd forgotten. They'd scheduled it before everything imploded. I don't know. Can I call you back? Of course. We just need to confirm by end of day. He hung up, stared at the phone. This was it. This was his chance. He texted Lillian, first contact since Saturday night. Sharon called about Emma's checkup tomorrow. I'd like to be there, please. 3 minutes passed. 5, 10. Then, fine. Meet us there at 10:45. Don't be late. Relief flooded through him, so intense it felt like pain. I won't. Thank you. She didn't respond. Friday morning, Victor showed up at St. Catherine's at 10:30, 15 minutes early. He waited in the parking lot until he saw Lillian's car pull in. She had Margaret with her. Of course. He got out, walked over as Lillian was unbuckling Emma from the car seat. Hey, he said. Lillian didn't look at him. Margaret, can you grab the diaper bag? Of course, dear. Margaret shot Victor a look that could strip paint. Emma was bigger than she'd been a week ago, more alert. Her eyes tracked movement now. When Victor stepped closer, she looked at him with an expression that might have been recognition or might have been gas. Can I carry her in? He asked. Lillian hesitated, then nodded. Fine. She transferred Emma into his arms. The weight of her felt like coming home and getting punched in the gut simultaneously. Hey, baby girl, he whispered. I missed you. Emma made a small sound, grabbed his finger with surprising strength. They walked into the hospital together, Victor carrying Emma, Lillian beside him but not touching him, Margaret bringing up the rear like a disapproving chaperone. In the elevator, no one spoke. Victor focused on Emma, on her tiny features, on the fact that she was real and here and his. The pediatrician was a cheerful woman named Dr. Morrison, who didn't seem to notice the tension in the room. How's our little one doing? She asked brightly. Good, Lillian said, eating well, sleeping in 2-hour stretches. Excellent. And how are you doing, Mom? Getting enough rest? As much as possible. And Dad? Dr. Morrison looked at Victor. How are you handling the sleep deprivation? He almost laughed. Sleep deprivation from a newborn was the least of his problems. I'm managing, he said. Dr. Morrison examined Emma, weighed her, up to 8 pounds, 2 ounces, measured her, 21 inches, checked her reflexes, her eyes, her ears, declared everything perfect. She's thriving, the doctor said. You two are doing a great job. Lillian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Victor saw it. When the appointment ended, they walked back to the parking lot in the same formation. Victor still carrying Emma, still memorizing every detail because he didn't know when he'd get to hold her again. At Lillian's car, he reluctantly transferred Emma back. Thank you, he said, for letting me come. Lillian strapped Emma into the car seat without responding. Lillian, please, can we talk? Just for a minute? About what? About us. About what happens next. What happens next is you leave us alone until I figure out what I want. How long will that take? I don't know, Victor. How long does it take to get over finding out your husband cheated on you through your entire pregnancy? Margaret was watching from the passenger seat, probably taking mental notes for future ammunition. I made an appointment with a marriage counselor, Victor said. Dr. Sarah Chen, tomorrow afternoon. I was hoping you'd come with me. Lillian finally looked at him, really looked at him. You made an appointment? Yes. Without asking me first. I was going to ask you now. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? Tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it. I can't tell you how to fix this. That's not my job. Then what is your job? Wrong thing to say. He saw it immediately in the way her expression hardened. My job is to take care of our daughter, to recover from giving birth, to keep myself together while dealing with the fact that my husband... She stopped, took a breath. I can't do your work for you. You need to figure out how to be better, on your own. I'm trying. Try harder. She got in the car, drove away, left Victor standing in the parking lot feeling like he'd just failed a test he didn't know he was taking. But he had an idea now. The beginning of one, anyway. Dr. Sarah Chen's office was in a quiet building downtown. Tasteful furniture, soothing colors, the kind of place designed to make people feel safe while discussing the ways they'd destroyed their lives. Victor showed up alone. Dr. Chen was in her 40s, with kind eyes and an expression that suggested she'd heard everything before. Mr. Hale? Good to meet you. Please, sit. He sat. So, Dr. Chen said, pen poised over a notepad, tell me why you're here. And Victor told her everything, the affair, the pregnancy, missing Emma's birth, Lillian kicking him out, The whole sordid mess spilled out in a rush that left him feeling hollowed out and exhausted. Dr. Chen listened without judgment, took notes. When he finished, she set down her pen. "That's a lot," she said simply. "Yeah. What do you want out of our sessions? What's your goal?" "To fix my marriage." "That's not entirely up to you. Your wife has to want that too." "Then to prove to her I'm worth fixing it for." Dr. Chen nodded. "That's more realistic. Let me ask you something. Why did you have the affair?" "I don't know." "That's not true. You might not want to admit it, but you know." Victor thought about it, really thought about it for the first time since this whole thing started. "I felt invisible," he said finally. "Lillian was pregnant and everything was about the baby. We stopped having sex, stopped talking about anything except nursery furniture and birth plans. I felt like I'd been replaced before the kid even arrived." "So you sought validation elsewhere?" "I guess." "And when you were with Nicole, how did you feel?" "Seen, important, like myself again instead of just the father." "Did you love her?" "No." "But you kept seeing her for 8 months." "Yeah. Why?" Victor struggled with the answer. Because it was easy. Because it felt good to be wanted. Because I'm selfish and weak, and I didn't want to give up feeling like that. And now? Now I've lost everything that actually mattered. Dr. Chen made a note. "Here's what I think, Victor. I think you've spent your whole life building an identity around being in control. Being the successful guy. The one everyone depends on. And when Lillian's pregnancy shifted the dynamic, when you weren't the center of attention anymore, you couldn't handle it. So I'm a narcissist." "I didn't say that. I said you have patterns of behavior that prioritize your needs over others. That's different. And it's fixable if you're willing to do the work." "What kind of work?" "The hard kind. Looking at why you make the choices you make. Learning to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Building actual emotional resilience instead of just performing competence." Victor absorbed this. "And if I do the work, will Lillian take me back?" "I can't answer that. But I can help you become the kind of person she might want to take back. The kind of father your daughter deserves. Whether or not that's enough is up to her." They talked for the rest of the hour. Dr. Chen gave him homework, journal exercises, questions to consider, reading materials about repairing trust after infidelity. When the session ended, Victor felt wrung out but clearer, like he'd finally admitted things to himself he'd been avoiding. He made weekly appointments, every Friday at 2 p.m. Then he drove to Derek's apartment and started actually working on himself instead of just feeling sorry for himself. The breakthrough came 3 weeks later. Victor had been doing everything Dr. Chen suggested, journaling, reading, actually examining his patterns instead of just acknowledging they existed. He'd also been showing up to Emma's appointments, to the grocery store when he knew Lillian would be there, to the house to drop off diapers and formula he'd bought without being asked. Lillian hadn't softened, but she hadn't gotten harder either. She let him hold Emma during appointments, let him stay for a few minutes when he dropped things off, answered his texts with more than one word. Progress. Glacial, painful progress. On a Tuesday afternoon, Victor's phone rang. Lillian. His heart stopped. She never called. "Hello? Can you come over?" Her voice was tight, stressed. "What's wrong? Is Emma okay?" "She's fine, just can you come now?" "I'm on my way." He made it to the house in 12 minutes. Lillian opened the door before he could knock. She looked exhausted, hair in a messy bun, spit up on her shoulder, eyes red-rimmed. "What happened?" he asked. "My mom left this morning. Had to get back home. And your mother—" She stopped, took a breath. "Your mother has been here for 3 weeks, Victor. 3 weeks of her reorganizing my kitchen and critiquing how I swaddle Emma and telling me stories about what a perfect baby you were. I can't do it anymore. I need her gone, but I can't tell her that because she'll cry and make it about how I don't appreciate her help." Victor almost smiled. Almost. "You want me to get rid of my mother? Please, I'm begging you." He found his mother in the nursery, rocking Emma while humming something off-key. "Mom, oh, Victor, look at her. She's smiling now. Real smiles, not just gas." "Mom, we need to talk." "Of course, honey. What is it?" "I think it's time for you to head home." His mother's face fell. "But I'm helping. Lillian needs me."
Lillian needs space and rest and time to adjust without people hovering. I'm not hovering, I'm being supportive. I know, but you've been here 3 weeks. That's a long time. Are you saying I'm not wanted? This was the tricky part. I'm saying you've been amazing and helpful, and we really appreciate everything you've done. But now we need to figure out how to be parents on our own, as a family. He hated using that word, family, like he had any right to claim it. But it worked. His mother's eyes got watery. I just want to be useful. You are. But the best way to be useful now is to give us some room to breathe. She sniffled, looked down at Emma. I suppose you're right. Your father keeps texting anyway, asking when I'm coming home. How about I book you a flight for tomorrow morning? Tomorrow? Yeah, I'll drive you to the airport. She agreed reluctantly. Victor booked the flight right there. 6 a.m. departure, which meant leaving the house at 4:30, which meant his mother would spend tonight packing instead of reorganizing more of Lillian's kitchen. When he came back downstairs, Lillian was sitting on the couch with Emma. She looked up when he entered. She's leaving tomorrow, 6 a.m. flight. Relief washed over Lillian's face. Thank you. You're welcome. They looked at each other. For the first time in weeks, there was something in her expression that wasn't anger or disappointment, something softer. Do you want to stay for dinner? She asked quietly. Victor's chest constricted. Are you sure? No, but I'm asking anyway. Then yes, I'd love to. Dinner was awkward and stilted, but it happened. They ordered Chinese food because neither of them had energy to cook. Ate in relative silence while his mother tried to fill the gaps with chatter. Emma slept in her bassinet. The normalcy of it, sitting at his own table, eating with his wife, their daughter nearby, felt like a miracle he didn't deserve. After his mother went to bed, Lillian walked Victor to the door. I'm not saying things are okay, she said. I'm not saying I forgive you or that we're getting back together. I know. But I've been thinking about what Dr. Morrison said, about Emma thriving because we're both involved, and She paused. I don't want her growing up without her father, even if her father is an unfaithful piece of garbage. I was going to say flawed, but yeah. Victor's throat was tight. I'm working on it, on being better. I'm seeing a therapist every week, and I'm trying to understand why I did what I did so I never do it again. Lillian studied his face like she was looking for cracks in his story. Are you really, or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? Both, maybe, but mostly the first one. She almost smiled. Almost. My therapist says I should set boundaries, that I need to figure out what I can and can't accept before we talk about anything long-term. You're seeing a therapist too? Of course I am. You think I can process all this alone? Fair point. What have you figured out? He asked. About boundaries? That I can't have you living here right now. That I need time before I can trust you again. That Emma needs her father, but I need to know you're actually committed to being better, not just performing better. Okay? So here's what I'm thinking. You can come over, see Emma, help with her. We can do this co-parenting thing even though we're technically still married and living separately, which is weird, but it's where we are. I can do that. And maybe, eventually, if you actually do the work, we can talk about couples counseling, about whether there's anything left to save. There is, Victor said. I know I screwed up. I know I don't deserve another chance, but there is something worth saving. I promise you that. Lillian's eyes were wet. Don't make promises you can't keep. I won't. She nodded, opened the door. 4:30 a.m. Don't forget to take your mother to the airport. I won't forget. He left, drove back to Derek's place, sat on the couch with a feeling in his chest that might have been hope or might have been heartburn, but felt suspiciously like progress. The next morning, he took his mother to the airport, endured a tearful goodbye where she made him promise to send daily pictures of Emma, watched her disappear through security. Then he drove to the house, let himself in with the key Lillian hadn't asked him to return. She was in the kitchen, feeding Emma a bottle. She looked up when he entered. You came back, she said. You didn't take my key. I didn't think you'd use it. Is it okay that I did? She considered. Yeah, it's okay. Victor sat down across from her, watched his wife feed their daughter, felt something settle inside him for the first time in months.
This wasn't forgiveness, wasn't reconciliation, wasn't anything close to fixed, but it was a door left unlocked, a key not taken away, an invitation to keep trying. And for the first time since everything fell apart, Victor believed he might actually deserve it. 6 months changed everything and nothing. Victor still lived at Derek's apartment, though he'd upgraded from the couch to an air mattress in the corner of the living room. Still saw Dr. Chen every Friday. Still showed up at the house 3, sometimes 4 times a week to help with Emma, diaper changes, bottle feedings, the 3 a.m. crying sessions that left everyone exhausted and nobody happy. Lillian hadn't asked him to move back, hadn't even hinted at it, but she'd stopped flinching when he entered the room, stopped monitoring his every move like he might steal something, started handing him Emma without that look that said she was entrusting her most precious possession to someone fundamentally untrustworthy. Progress. Slow. Painful. Real. Emma was 6 months old now, sitting up on her own, grabbing everything in reach, making sounds that weren't quite words but weren't quite not words either. She had Lillian's eyes and Victor's stubborn chin and a personality that suggested she'd inherited the worst traits from both of them. Victor loved her so much it physically hurt. On a Tuesday in March, Lillian called him at work. "Can you pick up Emma from daycare today?" Victor's heart skipped. She'd never asked him to do a pickup before, drop-offs, sure, but pickups meant being responsible for getting their daughter home safely, meant trust. "Yeah, of course. What time?" 5:30. I have a meeting that's running late." "No problem. I'll grab her." "Victor?" "Yeah?" "Don't forget the diaper bag. And her afternoon bottle is in the side pocket. She gets cranky if she doesn't eat by 6. He smiled. "I know. I've got it." "Okay, thanks." She hung up. Victor stared at his phone, feeling like he'd just won something. Gerald appeared in his doorway. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, I need to leave at 5. Pick up my daughter." "Your daughter?" Gerald smiled. "Never gets old hearing you say that." "No, it doesn't." Victor left at 4:50. Got to Little Sprouts daycare at 5:25. Signed Emma out with the cheerful teacher who always smelled like hand sanitizer and crushed Cheerios. "She had a great day," the teacher chirped. "Lots of tummy time. Ate all her lunch, only cried once during nap time." "That's good." "Thanks." Emma was in his arms, chewing on her fist, looking at him with an expression that might have been recognition or might have been confusion about why this familiar stranger was taking her instead of Mom. "It's okay," he told her. "We're going home. Or to your home, where Mom is. Eventually." He strapped her into the car seat, double-checked the straps, triple-checked them, started the drive to the house he still thought of as his, even though he hadn't lived there in half a year. Emma babbled the whole way, nonsense sounds. Victor babbled back, feeling ridiculous and perfectly content simultaneously. When he pulled into the driveway, Lillian's car wasn't there yet. Meeting must have run really late. He let himself in with the key she still hadn't taken back, brought Emma inside, changed her diaper because she definitely needed it, got her bottle from the diaper bag, and fed her while sitting in the living room rocker they'd bought together before everything went to hell. Emma drank her formula, her eyes heavy, one tiny hand wrapped around Victor's finger. "You're getting so big," he told her. "Pretty soon you're going to be walking, talking, telling me you hate me because I wasn't there when you were born." Emma made a sound that might have been agreement. "Yeah, I deserve that." He adjusted the bottle angle. "But I'm here now. I'm going to keep being here. Even when you're a teenager and you definitely hate me. I'm not going anywhere." The front door opened. Lillian walked in, looking frazzled and tired, her work bag sliding off one shoulder. "Sorry I'm late. The meeting went—" She stopped, looked at Victor holding Emma. Something crossed her face that he couldn't quite read. "You got her?" "Yeah, changed her. Bottle's almost done." "Thank you." "No problem." Lillian dropped her bag on the couch, kicked off her shoes, stood there for a moment like she was trying to decide something. "Are you hungry?" she asked. Yeah, I could eat. I was going to order pizza. You could stay, if you want." It was the first time she'd invited him to stay for dinner since that awkward Chinese food night 6 months ago. Victor tried to keep his voice casual. "Yeah, that would be great." They ordered from the place they used to get pizza from every Friday, pepperoni and mushroom, extra cheese. While they waited, Lillian took Emma and put her down for a late nap. Victor sat on the couch, trying not to think about how this felt almost normal, almost like before. When Lillian came back downstairs, she had that look she got when she was about to say something difficult. "We should talk," she said. Victor's stomach dropped. "Okay?" She sat on the opposite end of the couch, not next to him, but not in the chair across the room either. "I've been thinking," she started, "about us, about what happens next." "Okay. My therapist says I need to make a decision, that I can't keep you in this limbo state forever. It's not fair to you or Emma or me. What do you want to do?" Lillian looked at her hands. "I don't know if I can forgive you. Not completely, not the way it was before." Victor's chest tightened. "I understand. But I also don't know if I want a divorce. If I want Emma growing up in a broken home, shuffling between two houses, missing one parent or the other. We could make co-parenting work. Could we? Or would it just be painful and complicated and confusing for everyone? I don't know. But we'd figure it out." Lillian finally looked at him. "Do you still want to be married to me?" The question hit him like a punch. "Yes. Of course." "Why?" "Because I love you. Because you're the mother of my daughter. Because I was an idiot and I threw away the best thing in my life and I'd do anything to get it back." "That's not a good enough reason." "Then what is?" "I need to know you want to be married to me, not to the idea of having a family, not to avoid being the divorced guy. To me, the actual person I am right now, which is tired and angry and not the same woman you married." Victor thought about it, really thought about it. "You want the truth?" "Always. The truth is I don't know who you are right now. Not completely. You've changed. You've had to change because of what I did. And I'm still figuring out who I am without the affair, without the lies, without all the garbage I used to build myself around." Lillian's expression was unreadable. "But I want to know you," Victor continued. "I want to figure out who we both are now. Together. If you'll let me." "That's not a guarantee." "No, but it's honest." The doorbell rang. Pizza. Lillian got up to get it. They ate in the living room like they used to, except now there was a baby monitor on the coffee table and 6 months of damage between them. "I've been thinking about couples counseling," Lillian said between bites. "Actually doing it this time. Not just you going alone." "I'd like that." "Dr. Chen recommended someone. Dr. Martinez specializes in infidelity recovery. When do you want to start?" "I already made an appointment. Next Thursday, 6 p.m. Victor felt something loosen in his chest. "You made an appointment. Don't read too much into it. I'm not saying we're getting back together. I'm saying I'm willing to try." "That's enough. That's more than enough." They finished eating. Lillian told him about her day, a difficult project at work, a coworker who wouldn't stop microwaving fish in the break room, the way Emma had laughed for the first time yesterday and Lillian had cried because she was so happy and so sad that Victor hadn't been there to see it. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know, but you can't apologize for every moment you miss. That's not sustainable." "Then what do I do?" "Be there for the moments you can be there for. Make them count." Emma woke up at 7:30. Lillian brought her downstairs. Victor played with her on the floor. Simple games, peekaboo, letting her grab his fingers and try to pull herself up even though she wasn't strong enough yet. At 8:30, Lillian started the bedtime routine. Victor watched from the doorway of the nursery. Bath time, lotion, pajamas with feet. A story Lillian read in that soft voice she used only for Emma. "You want to put her down?" Lillian asked when the story ended. Victor's throat tightened. "Yeah, I'd love to." He took Emma, held her against his chest, swayed gently while humming something that might have been a lullaby or might have been nothing at all. Emma's eyes got heavy, her breathing evened out. She made a small sound and burrowed closer. Victor put her in the crib carefully, covered her with the blanket his mother had made, stood there watching her sleep, this perfect small person who existed because of him and despite him. "She looks like you when she sleeps," Lillian said quietly from behind him. "I was thinking she looks like you. Maybe she looks like both of us." They stood there together, watching their daughter. For a moment, it felt like before, like they were a team, like they could handle anything as long as they had each other. Then Lillian stepped back. The moment broke. "You should probably go," she said. Not cruel, just factual. "It's getting late." "Yeah, okay." At the door, Victor turned back. "Thank you, for dinner, for letting me put her down, for trying." "Don't thank me yet. We have a long way to go." "I know, but I'm not going anywhere." Lillian almost smiled. "Good, because Emma needs her father." "And what about you? What do you need?" She thought about it. "Time, proof, consistency, and maybe for you to stop asking me what I need and just show me." "I can do that." He drove back to Derek's apartment feeling lighter than he had in months. Couples counseling was brutal. Dr. Martinez didn't pull punches. She made them talk about the affair in excruciating detail, made Lillian explain how it felt when she found out, made Victor explain why he'd done it, made them both acknowledge the ways they'd failed each other. "Marriage is a choice you make every day," Dr. Martinez said during their third session. Victor chose to step outside the marriage. That's on him. But Lillian, you have to choose whether to let him back in, and that's on you. "I'm trying," Lillian said. "Are you, or are you keeping him at arm's length as punishment?" "Maybe both." "That's fair. But at some point you have to decide. Punishment doesn't rebuild trust. It just delays the inevitable." "What's the inevitable?" "Either you forgive him and move forward together, or you don't forgive him and move forward separately. Staying in this middle ground just makes everyone miserable." Lillian looked at Victor. "Do you think you deserve to be forgiven?" "No," he said honestly, "but I'm hoping you'll choose to anyway." After that session, they went to the park. Emma was in her stroller, bundled against the April wind. They walked in silence for a while. "I don't want a divorce," Lillian said finally. Victor's heart stopped. "Okay, but I don't want what we had before either. That's gone. I can't get it back." "So what do you want?" "Something new. Something honest, where we're actually partners instead of just people living in the same house." "I want that too." "Then we need to figure out what that looks like. Together." They sat on a bench. Emma fell asleep in her stroller. Victor reached for Lillian's hand. She didn't pull away. "I miss you," he said. "I miss you too. I hate that I do, but I do." "Can I come home?" Lillian looked at him, really looked at him. "Not yet. But maybe soon." "How soon?" "When I can trust you to be there at 3 a.m. when Emma's crying and I'm exhausted. When I can trust you to choose us over whatever makes you feel good in the moment. When I can look at you and not see the man who wasn't there when our daughter was born. I don't know if you'll ever stop seeing that. Maybe not. But I need to see other things too. Better things. Enough better things that the bad one stops being the only thing I remember. I can do that. Prove it." So he did. He showed up every day, sometimes twice a day, brought groceries without being asked, fixed the leaky faucet in the kitchen, took Emma for walks so Lillian could have an hour to herself, sent her articles he thought she'd find interesting, texted her goodnight every night even when they'd seen each other that day. Small things, consistent things. Things that said, "I'm here and I'm not leaving." In May, Lillian asked him to stay over. Just once. Emma had a cold and Lillian was exhausted and she needed help getting through the night. Victor slept on the couch, took the 3 a.m. feeding shift, the 5 a.m. one too. When Lillian came downstairs at 7, he had coffee made and Emma fed and changed. "You didn't have to do all that," she said. "I wanted to." She looked at him over her coffee mug. "You can stay tonight too, if you want." "On the couch?" "Where else?" He stayed. One night became 2. 2 became 4. By the end of May, he was sleeping on the couch 5 nights a week. In June, Lillian told him to stop being ridiculous and just sleep in the guest room. "It has a real bed," she pointed out. "Better than Derek's air mattress." "You sure?" "I'm sure." "But Victor?" "Yeah?" "The guest room, not our room, not yet." "I know, thank you." He moved into the guest room, brought his clothes over in garbage bags because he still didn't have proper luggage. Derek threw him a moving out party that consisted of beer and Chinese food and a card that said, "You're slightly less of a disaster now. Proud of you, man." Living in the same house as Lillian and Emma changed everything. Victor was there for every moment now, every late-night crying session, every first. The first time Emma rolled over by herself, the first time she ate solid food and promptly spit it everywhere, the first tooth breaking through her gums. He was there, finally, consistently. In August, on a Saturday morning, Emma took her first steps. Victor and Lillian were both in the living room. Emma was using the coffee table to pull herself up, something she'd been doing for weeks. But this time, she let go. Stood there wobbling for a second, then took one step, 2, 3, right into Victor's waiting arms. "Did you see that?" Victor looked at Lillian with tears in his eyes. "Did you see her walk?" Lillian was crying too. "She did it. Our baby just walked." Emma looked proud of herself, confused why everyone was making such a fuss. She pushed away from Victor, stood up again, took 4 more steps toward Lillian. They spent the rest of the morning watching her practice, catching her when she fell, cheering every successful step like she'd just won an Olympic medal. That night, after Emma was asleep, Lillian found Victor in the kitchen. "Thank you for being here today," she said. "Where else would I be? That's the point. You're here. You're always here now. That's what you asked for." "I know, but it still means something." She stepped closer, close enough that Victor could smell her shampoo, close enough to touch. "Lillian, I'm not ready for everything," she said, "but I'm ready for some things." "Like what?" She kissed him. It was different from before, tentative, testing, like they were strangers learning each other again. But it was real, and it was them, and it was enough. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet. "I'm still angry at you," she said. "I know. I might be angry for a long time. I know that too. But I don't want to lose you, not completely, not forever." "You won't, I promise." "Don't make promises you can't keep." "I'm not." She kissed him again, harder this time, like she was testing to see if he'd break. If the man standing in front of her was real or just another performance. He didn't break. He kissed her back. Careful, respectful. Like she was precious, and he was finally smart enough to know it. "Come to bed," she whispered. "The real bed, not the guest room." "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." They went upstairs together, checked on Emma, still sleeping, arms thrown above her head, peaceful. Then they went to the bedroom they'd shared for 7 years and hadn't shared for almost 10 months. Victor didn't expect what happened next, didn't assume anything. But Lillian reached for him and he reached back, and for the first time in a year they were actually together. No lies between them. No secrets, just 2 broken people trying to rebuild something worth keeping. Afterward, Lillian cried. Not sad crying, not happy crying, just crying. "I don't know if I can do this," she said. "Do what?" "Trust you. Forgive you. Build something new when the old thing is still broken. You don't have to decide tonight." "I feel like I've been deciding every day for months." "Then take a break from deciding. Just be here with me, right now." She curled into him, let him hold her. They fell asleep tangled together like they used to, like maybe they could again. September brought Emma's first birthday. They threw a party. Small. Just family and a few friends. Derek came. Gerald sent a gift basket that was wildly inappropriate for a 1-year-old, but appreciated anyway. Both grandmothers flew in, managed not to kill each other, and actually had what looked like a civil conversation about Emma's sleeping schedule. Emma wore a ridiculous frilly dress that Lillian's mother had bought. Smashed cake all over her face. Opened presents she was too young to care about while everyone took 1,000 pictures. Victor stood back, watching it all, feeling like he'd somehow stumbled into someone else's beautiful life. Lillian found him in the kitchen while everyone else was in the living room. "You okay?" "Yeah, just taking it all in." "She's 1. Can you believe it?" "No, feels like yesterday she was..." He stopped. "Being born while you weren't there?" Victor winced. "Yeah." "You know what I realized?" "What?" "I've stopped thinking about that moment as the defining one. It used to be all I could see when I looked at you, but now there are other moments, better ones. You teaching Emma to clap. You singing her to sleep even though you can't carry a tune.
You being there every single day, even when it was hard. Those moments don't erase what I did.
No, but they matter anyway. She took his hand. Come on. Your daughter wants to open more presents she won't remember. Your daughter, not our daughter, just his. Like Lillian was acknowledging his place in Emma's life. His importance. That night, after everyone left and Emma was asleep and the house was quiet, Lillian sat Victor down at the kitchen table. I want to try something, she said. Okay? I want you to move back into our room. Officially. Not as a guest. As my husband. Victor's heart hammered. Are you sure? No. But I'm tired of being unsure. I'm tired of punishing you. I'm tired of us living in this weird limbo where we're together but not together. So what are we doing? We're being married, for real this time, with actual honesty and communication and all the things we should have been doing from the start. I can do that. And if you screw up again, if you even think about stepping outside this marriage, we're done. Completely. No second chances. I won't. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Because I know what I'd lose, and I'm never making that mistake again. Lillian looked at him for a long time, searching his face for cracks, for lies, for any sign that this was just another performance. She must have found what she was looking for because she nodded. Okay, then we're really doing this.
We're really doing this. She stood up, held out her hand. Come on, husband, let's go to bed. Victor took her hand, let her lead him upstairs, to their room, their life, their second chance that he'd earned one day at a time over 10 months of proving he was worth it.
Years later, Emma would ask about the day she was born. She was 7. They were having breakfast. Pancakes that Victor had made because weekend pancakes were his thing now. Was I a good baby? Emma asked out of nowhere. Lillian smiled. The best baby. Was Daddy there when I was born? The question landed like a grenade on the breakfast table. Victor and Lillian looked at each other. They'd talked about this, prepared for it, decided together how much truth a child could handle.
No, Victor said. I wasn't there. Emma's face fell. Why not? Because I made a really bad choice. I was somewhere I shouldn't have been, and I missed the most important moment of my life. Were you sad? I was more than sad. I was devastated, and I spent a long time trying to make up for it. Did you? I don't know. That's a question for your mom. Emma turned to Lillian. Did he make up for it? Lillian looked at Victor, the man who'd broken her trust and then spent years rebuilding it, who showed up every day, who'd become the father Emma deserved and the husband Lillian needed. Yeah, she said finally. He did. Emma seemed satisfied with that, went back to drowning her pancakes in syrup. Victor reached under the table, found Lillian's hand, squeezed it. She squeezed back. They'd never be the couple they were before. That version of them was gone, destroyed by 26 minutes in a hotel room and all the choices that led there. But they'd become something else, something harder won and more honest, something built on truth instead of illusion. Victor had learned what it cost to be absent, to choose himself over the people who needed him, to take for granted what he had until it was almost gone. And Lillian had learned she was stronger than she thought, that she could survive betrayal and heartbreak and still choose to love anyway. That forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was the hardest kind of strength. Emma finished her pancakes, asked if she could watch cartoons. Lillian said yes. Emma ran off, leaving her parents alone in the kitchen. You okay? Lillian asked. Yeah, you? Yeah. I love you, Victor said. The same words he'd said 1,000 times, but they meant something different now. I love you too, Lillian answered, and she meant it. Because some betrayals do rewrite who you are. Some moments do define everything that comes after. Some absences do leave scars that never fully heal. But some people, some families, find a way to survive anyway. Not perfectly, not painlessly, not without carrying the weight of what was lost, but together. And in the end, that was enough.